The earliest evidence of music dates back to prehistoric times, when people used simple instruments like drums, flutes and rattles to create rhythms and melodies. Some of these instruments were made from animal bones, shells and stones. Imagine playing a flute made from a mammoth tusk. That must have been quite a sight. Of course, back then music was not for entertainment, but for survival. People used music to communicate, to scare away predators, to attract mates and to celebrate rituals. For example, if you wanted to ask someone out, you would play them a romantic tune on your bone flute. And if they liked you back, they would play along with their shell rattle. And if they didn't like you back, they would throw their stone drum at your head. Alright, that may or may not be sarcasm, but I can assure you the rest of this is true. Ancient music was also very diverse and influenced by different cultures and regions. For example, in Mesopotamia, the first civilization in history, they used lyres and harps to play complex songs with different scales and modes. In China, they used bells and chimes to create harmonious sounds based on the principles of yin and yang. And in Egypt, they used trumpets and lutes to play catchy tunes that would make even the pharaohs dance. But not all ancient music was pleasant to listen to. Some of it was downright scary and disturbing. For example, in ancient Greece, they had a musical instrument called the aulos, which was a double reed pipe that sounded like a duck being strangled. The aulos was often played during war and sacrifice ceremonies, to create a sense of fear and dread among the enemies and the victims. Some people even believed that the aulos could drive people mad or cause diseases. Medieval music. Moving on to medieval times, music became more sophisticated and refined, thanks to the development of notation systems and musical theory. Music also became more associated with religion and art, as well as entertainment and education. One of the most important forms of medieval music was Gregorian chant, which was a type of monophonic vocal music sung by monks in churches. Gregorian chant was named after Pope Gregory, who supposedly received the melodies directly from God through a dove that whispered in his ear. That's one talented bird. Another important form of medieval music was troubadour song, which was a type of secular vocal music performed by traveling poets and musicians in courts and castles. Troubadour songs were often about love, chivalry, and adventure. They were also very witty and clever, sometimes using double entendres and innuendos to express their feelings. For example, one famous troubadour song goes like this: I love you more than salt, and more than bread, and more than wine, and more than cheese, and more than meat, and more than fish, and more than eggs, and more than milk, and more than honey, and more than anything else in the world, except your sister. Medieval music also saw the emergence of polyphony, which is the combination of two or more independent musical lines that harmonize with each other. Polyphony was considered a major innovation and a sign of musical sophistication. However, not everyone was a fan of polyphony. Some church authorities condemned it as too worldly and distracting from the worship of God. They even banned certain intervals that they considered dissonant or evil-sounding, such as the tritone or the devil's interval. Renaissance music. Next, we have Renaissance music, which was influenced by the cultural movement that revived the classical ideals of ancient Greece and Rome. Renaissance music was characterized by humanism, individualism, and creativity. One of the most influential composers of Renaissance music was Josquin des Prez, who was known for his mastery of polyphony and his expressive use of text and music. Josquin was so famous and respected that he could get away with anything he wanted. For example, he once wrote a song called The Cricket, which was literally about a cricket that sings all day long without getting tired or thirsty. The song had no deeper meaning or symbolism, it was just a silly song about a cricket, but to the people at the time it was like their version of the hit techno anthem, Pump Up the Jam. Another influential composer of Renaissance music was Giovanni Pierluigi da Palestrina, who was known for his smooth and elegant style of polyphony and his devotion to the Catholic Church. Palestrina was so revered and admired that he was credited with saving polyphony from being banned by the Council of Trent, which was a meeting of church leaders that tried to reform the church and its music. According to legend, Palestrina wrote a mass called Missa Papa Marcelli, which was so beautiful and clear that it convinced the council to allow polyphony in church music. However, this legend is probably not true, because the council never actually discussed banning polyphony in the first place. Renaissance music also saw the development of new musical genres and forms, such as madrigals, motets, canzonas, and dances. Madrigals were secular vocal songs that often had multiple meanings and emotions. Motets were sacred vocal songs that often had multiple texts and languages. Canzonas were instrumental pieces that imitated vocal styles. And dances were instrumental pieces that were meant for dancing. Some of the most popular dances were the pavane, which was a slow and stately dance, the galliard, which was a fast and lively dance, and the volta, which was a daring and acrobatic dance that involved lifting and spinning your partner in the air. Baroque music. Finally, we have Baroque music, which was influenced by the artistic movement that emphasized drama, contrast, and ornamentation. Baroque music was characterized by complexity, virtuosity, and emotion. One of the most influential composers of Baroque music was Johann Sebastian Bach, who was known for his mastery of counterpoint and his prolific output of music in every genre and form. Bach was so talented and productive that he could write music faster than he could copy it. He also had a large family of musicians, with 20 children from 2 wives, many of whom became composers themselves. However, Bach was not very famous or appreciated during his lifetime. He was mostly known as an organist and a teacher, and his music was considered old-fashioned and boring by his contemporaries. Another influential composer of Baroque music was Antonio Vivaldi, who was known for his expressive and colorful style of music and his innovative use of instruments and effects. Vivaldi was also a priest and a violin teacher at an orphanage for girls in Venice, where he wrote most of his music for his students. Vivaldi wrote over 500 concertos, which are musical pieces that feature a soloist or a group of soloists accompanied by an orchestra. One of his most famous works is The Four Seasons, which is a set of 4 concertos that depict the seasons of the year with vivid musical imagery. Baroque music also saw the birth of opera, which is a musical drama that combines singing, acting, costumes, scenery, and orchestra. Opera was invented in Italy by a group of intellectuals who wanted to recreate the ancient Greek tragedies with music. One of the first operas ever written was Orfeo, by Claudio Monteverdi, which tells the story of Orpheus, a legendary musician who tries to rescue his wife Eurydice from the underworld with his singing. However, opera soon became more popular and extravagant, with elaborate plots, characters, and effects. Some of the most famous opera composers were George Friedrich Handel, who wrote Messiah, and Julius Caesar, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, who wrote The Magic Flute, and Don Giovanni, and Giuseppe Verdi, who wrote Aida, and La Traviata. Conclusion. And that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this brief history of music and learned something new. There is so much more to cover, but this is all we have time for today. Music is a wonderful art form that reflects the culture and spirit of each era. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. And don't forget to leave a comment below telling me what your favorite musical period or composer is. Thanks for watching and see you next time.